When it comes to getting more of the right listeners subscribed to your podcast, it doesn't happen by accident. Sure, having great conversations and asking insightful questions and delivering high-value episodes is essential. But none of that matters if people don't find your podcast in the first place. Now, here's where most podcasters drop the ball. They focus entirely on what happens during the podcast, the audio quality, the video setup, and especially the depth of the conversations. Obviously, this is essential because otherwise there is no real meat on the bone for your audience to consume. But what about everything that happens before someone presses play? You know, that moment when someone discovers your podcast for the very first time. What are they seeing? What impression are you making? While show clips and glowing reviews from listeners are a big piece of the pie, there is an often overlooked area that can draw new eyes and ears to your podcast, and that is visual storytelling. Now, I'm not just talking about episode cover art, guest graphics, your professional headshot, or the podcast page on your website. While these visuals set the foundation for how your podcast is presented and ensures everything tied to your show looks professional and cohesive, there's more to it than just that. And that's where secondary visual content comes into play. These are the images that illustrate you as the human being behind the microphone and living your day-to-day life. These photos showcase your personality, your process, and even those candid moments that make people feel like they know you. Here's why being intentional about your visual storytelling is important. There's a very good chance that the first time someone finds out that you have a podcast, they won't hear it. They'll see it. Maybe it's your cover art popping up on a social feed, a promo graphic with a guest, a behind-the-scenes photo of you mid-interview, or a portrait of you on your personal page. And when they read more, they realize, oh, they're a podcaster. Good first impressions aren't just important, they're everything. That's why every visual you share online needs to align with how you want your podcast to be perceived by the listeners you're trying to attract. But alignment isn't just about making things look all fancy. It's about making sure your visuals also highlight your personality and the tone of your show. To help zero in on this, ask yourself two important questions. What 5 words illustrate how you want your podcast to be perceived by listeners? And what 5 words illustrate aspects of your personality that you want to share with your listeners? Use these words to guide not only the photos you have a professional photographer capture, but also the casual smartphone photos you post, and even the design of your cover art and graphics. Let's say the words that you want to use to illustrate how you want to be seen by your audience is engaging, genuine, approachable, curious, and fun. Your professional photos in that scenario might show you in your home recording setup, leaning into the mic with a genuine expression, laughing mid-conversation while wearing headphones, adjusting your audio settings, or jotting down episode ideas at your desk. Smartphone self-portraits could capture moments like a quick selfie after wrapping up an exciting interview with a guest on your monitor in the background. For cover art, you'd choose bold and inviting colors with a clean yet lively design that complements your approachable vibe. While these are just a small sampling of ideas, the point to make here is that your perception and personality-based words create a roadmap for your visuals, ensuring that they match both the tone of your show and the personality you want to project. By taking this intentional approach, you're not throwing photos or graphics out into the wind. You're crafting a genuine visual experience that resonates with the audience you want to attract. Once you identify how you and your podcast want to be perceived by your audience and what aspects of your personality you want to share through your visual assets, give your podcast visual touch points a second look with a critical eye. Are they consistent with the way you want to be perceived and injected with genuine aspects of your personality? Or are they a bunch of slapped together photos taken throughout the years that don't really do much beyond that of checking the boxes of, oh, I needed a photo, then there's a photo. If it's the latter, don't worry about it. It is fixable. Start by diving deeper and auditing each of your public-facing visuals across all of your touch points, one by one. If they pass the sniff test of whether or not they're aligned with how you want to be seen by your listeners, move on to the next touch point and rinse and repeat this audit process until you've reviewed everything you share online. If they don't, guess what? It's time for you to get ready for your close-up. And when you do, make sure that you don't end up walking away with only a small handful of shots. The reason? You need to keep things fresh and new. Don't just recycle the same photos over and over again. You'll bore the hell out of your audience. And a bored audience isn't one that sticks around, let alone one that subscribes or becomes a loyal advocate for your show. If the theme of your podcast is directly tied to how you serve your audience, show them that world too. Whether it's photos of you working with clients, hosting a workshop, or diving into your creative process, let your visuals tell the full story of how your expertise connects to the value your podcast provides. This will add massive credibility and inspire more folks that need your help outside of simply listening to your podcast to subscribe. And don't forget those secondary photos that humanize you. Maybe it's a candid photo of you brainstorming ideas with a notebook, laptop, tablet, or voice recorder, however you capture ideas. Or maybe it's a candid moment of reflection where you're thinking about the future, or an image where you're laughing to yourself when reading something off of your phone. The goal is to reveal the genuine layers of who you are, because this paints a broader picture of what your world beyond the microphone truly looks like. And that's what attracts people under your tent to learn more and listen to the podcast. The more genuine you are, the more likely you'll attract listeners who truly resonate with your podcast and become advocates for your show. And who knows? Maybe you also will attract some clients for the various services you provide outside of the podcast as well. Either way, don't assume that just because you're having incredible, insight-packed conversations with magical guests, people will automatically tune in. It really does not work that way. Some folks need more convincing, so let your visuals do some of the heavy lifting. Let's say you've got an amazing guest on your show who drops a really solid idea nugget from out of nowhere. Instead of just posting that soundbite as it is, pair it with a behind-the-scenes photo, or in a pinch, get a screen grab of the two of you deep in conversation and turn it into an audiogram. Another option could be to turn their key insight into a quote graphic placed over an engaging photo of yourself with the podcast branding included. Another idea could be a carousel post, breaking down the episode's top takeaways, because that can go a long way to getting people interested in tuning in. By diversifying the way in which you share content online to promote the show, it can nudge someone from, yeah, it's an interesting show, to, all right, this show is for me and I'm subscribing. But before you start blasting out photos left, right, up, and down, and center, remember, not all photos are created equal. Every image you share, whether in content, on your website, or in other promotional materials, needs to serve a purpose. Don't just choose a photo because it looks good to you. Choose it because it works. Think critically about the sentiment or the message of your content. If you're sharing a heartfelt personal takeaway from an episode, pair it with a photo that feels genuine and reflective, not something staged and generic, regardless if it's a professional portrait or a smartphone self-portrait snapshot. Why? Because visual punctuation matters. It's about finding that ideal image that complements and amplifies your specific message and makes your content hit more deeply in the minds of your listeners. At the end of the day, The key to creating an intentional visual storytelling strategy that is genuine and specific to you is having a versatile image content portfolio. In addition to the ideas for visual content mentioned earlier, think about what else your audience might want to see beyond just the podcast itself. What does your work process look like? Do you brainstorm at your favorite coffee shop? Are there aspects of your personal life that would resonate with them? Maybe it's a shot of you walking your dog while listening to a podcast yourself. When you create images with intention, you open doors to connect with your audience in ways that extend far beyond the audio. Now, before you commit to creating an intentional visual storytelling strategy, know that this isn't a one-time thing. It's not set it and forget it. It's a commitment to telling your never-ending story. And yes, it is a hell of a lot of work. But if you're serious about using your podcast as a vehicle to educate, inspire, and connect with your audience, especially if the podcast is meant to attract potential clients for the products and services you provide, then the juice is worth the squeeze. Staying committed means regularly checking in with your visuals. Are they still aligned with who you are today? If you've gained or lost weight, moved into a new studio setup, or shifted the focus of your show, then it's time for a refresh. There's nothing more lame than seeing outdated photos that don't match the person or the podcast they're supposed to represent. Misalignment creates doubt, and doubt is not what you want in your audience's mind. When you invest in a visual storytelling strategy that goes beyond a professional headshot and artwork for the show itself, you're not just creating content. You're creating an experience. You're making your podcast impossible to ignore, and you're turning it into appointment listening. So, take the time, be intentional, and be strategic. Deliver the magic that draws your audience in and keeps them coming back for more. Show up in a way that makes people not just want to listen, but want to stick around and tell their friends just like them to subscribe as well.